I found proof. My boyfriend's dad was stalking his wife before she passed. I told everyone around us, but he gaslit them into thinking I'm the crazy one. So now I'm about to reveal a secret. So disturbing, it'll shatter his lies and expose who the real monster is. My boyfriend fell in love with me the second we met, but his dad had other ideas. His father was a traditional man, not overly conservative or anything, just the type to hold open a door for any woman he saw. In the moments leading up to meeting his dad, my boyfriend had been hyping me up for months. He'd talk about how loyal I was, how I had sneaked into his apartment and deep cleaned his room while he was away, stuff like that. So this meant by the time I was actually meeting him, I thought I had it in the bag, but I was wrong. The second he saw me, his eyes widened with disgust. He refused to shake my hand. I thought it was some sort of prank, but then I looked to my boyfriend who was just as surprised as me. "Son, please tell me this isn't the woman you've been talking about," he said, while I stood right in front of him. My boyfriend was so stunned that he couldn't even think of a reply, and next thing I knew, his dad was walking away from me, with his face buried in his hands. For context, I don't think I'm ugly or anything. I'm a blonde-haired girl, slightly on the chubby side, size 12, but personally, I think I'm still solid. And the last thing I wanted to do was jump to conclusions. So I told myself that maybe he was just being overprotective because Harry's mom had died in a car crash when he was just 5 years old, and he was an only child. And my boyfriend even tried to reassure me that his dad was still adjusting to the idea of him growing up, and I was his first time for everything. All of that made sense. So for the rest of the evening, I continued to try and keep smiling. This was easy for me because growing up, my family was always the type to sweep every big fight under the rug. So I was used to being the tension killer, LOL. So while we all barbecued, I took pictures of Harry and his dad together and told them they're going to be iconic picture book memories one day. My boyfriend flashed a big smile, and I swear I could see a spark of happiness flash in his dad's face. But as quick as it came, it left and was soon replaced with his resting bitch face. And one thing about me, I will get you to love me. So I just kept pretending not to notice. "Sir, how long have you been barbecuing for? These steaks taste a year." He immediately cut off my effort to converse without even glancing at me. "Wow, it seems like a lot longer. The flavor is amazing." Okay. I could feel the happiness in me slowly being crushed in the palm of his hand, and it was too painful to continue. So I left and went to the bathroom to re-strategize. When I came back, I could hear my name being whispered. So I did what every respectful woman would do in this situation, and began to stand nearby, eavesdropping. My heart perked up as I heard my boyfriend defending me, interrogating his dad as to why he wasn't even giving me a chance. That's when his dad whisper shouted, "Because of how she looks, Ryan." I felt the air leave my lungs. I instinctively took my phone out to see how I looked in my screen reflection, to see if there was anything wrong with my makeup. Unfortunately, everything was perfect, meaning he hated something I couldn't change. At that point, I didn't want to hear anything else. So I dabbed my eye with a tissue to soak up the tears, and walked out with a huge smile on my face. "Hey, what are y'all talking about?" His dad looked away. "I'm gonna let you two solve this between yourselves," Harry said before walking away. A cold dread washed over me. I wiped the smile off my face, feeling no desire to impress this man anymore. I expected him to yell, to tell me his son was too good for me, but instead, he apologized. "I'm sorry, honey. It's not your fault." I furrowed my eyebrows, because up to this point, he had been treating me worse than a stray dog on the street. As you know, Rachel's passing has been taking a toll on this family, and Harry, he's strong, but me, I still think about her every day. His eyes were glued to the ground. There's something Harry doesn't know. It was one of those moments where you just feel like you can talk about anything, like the rest of the world doesn't exist. So I took his hand and nodded as if to tell him I can keep a secret. That day, in the Honda Civic, there was a song playing. It was her favorite. He smiled and began to hum the song Like a Virgin by Madonna, as if Rachel was standing beside him listening. She had all her vinyls, posters. I even joked that she could be her backup singer. "And you look just like her. And I know it's not your fault. It's just hard." A tear fell down his cheek, and I hugged him super tight. He hugged me back, and that's when my BF returned. "It's okay. I understand," I whispered, before separating and kissing my boyfriend. He was smiling super hard, and I knew I had found my chosen family. That night, I slept in the guest room because my boyfriend didn't want his dad to know we had SX. I was fine with this, and I slept like a baby, until 3 a.m., when I felt a man cuddle up behind me. It wasn't my boyfriend. It was his dad. I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You look just like her," he groaned before grabbing my chest. I screamed. Harry burst into the room seconds later, flipping on the light to find his father scrambling off the bed. "Dad? What the hell?" His voice cracked with shock and disgust. Jack, that's his dad's name, stood there swaying, his eyes unfocused. "She looks just like Rachel," he slurred, as if that explained everything. I pulled the blanket up to my chin, trembling. "Get out!" Harry shouted, physically pushing his father toward the door. "Now!" Jack stumbled into the hallway, mumbling incoherently. Harry slammed the door and locked it, then turned to me, his face ashen. "Are you okay? Did he—" "I'm fine," I lied, my voice shaking. He got in bed with me." I screamed as soon as he touched me. Harry sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. "I'm so sorry. We're leaving first thing in the morning." We packed our things before dawn and left without saying goodbye. In the car, Harry was silent, white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "I can't believe he would—" he started, then stopped, swallowing hard. I knew he was still grieving, but it's not your fault," I said softly, echoing his father's words from earlier, though mine were sincere. "He's clearly not well." Harry nodded, but I could see the shame and confusion warring on his face. The early morning light cast long shadows across the road as we drove away. The car's heater hummed quietly, fighting off the pre-dawn chill that had settled in the vehicle. I watched the familiar landmarks of Harry's neighborhood fade in the rearview mirror, feeling a strange mix of relief and unease. My hands were still trembling slightly, and I clasped them together in my lap to steady them. Harry's profile was tense, his jaw clenched tight as he focused on the empty road ahead. We drove straight to his apartment, where I collapsed into his bed, emotionally drained. Harry made coffee and sat beside me, looking lost. I don't know what to do, he admitted. Report him? Cut him off? Get him help? I didn't have answers. Over the next few days, Jack called Harry constantly, leaving tearful voicemails claiming he had no memory of that night, that he'd been sleepwalking, that he would never intentionally do something so terrible. Harry listened to each one with a pained expression before deleting them. A week later, Jack showed up at Harry's apartment, sober and bearing a handwritten letter of apology addressed to me. He wants to make amends, Harry explained, holding the sealed envelope. Says he started AA. I took the letter reluctantly. Inside was a rambling apology, blaming alcohol and grief for his inappropriate behavior. He begged for forgiveness, for a second chance to be the father and father-in-law we both deserved. At the bottom, he'd written, I'm hosting a small family barbecue next Sunday. Please consider coming. I want to make things right. Harry watched me read it, his expression hopeful, yet guarded. We don't have to go, he assured me. It's completely up to you. Part of me wanted to tear up the letter and never see Jack again. But another part, the tension killer, the people pleaser, thought about Harry, caught between his girlfriend and his only living parent. Let's go, I said finally. But we're not staying overnight, and if he does anything weird, we leave immediately. The week leading up to the barbecue was tense. I found myself checking my phone constantly, half expecting another message from Jack. Harry seemed distracted, often staring into space during our conversations. At night, I would sometimes wake up to find him sitting at the edge of the bed, scrolling through old family photos on his phone. The letter from Jack remained on our kitchen counter, its presence a constant reminder of what had happened and what was to come. I practiced my everything is fine smile in the mirror each morning, determined to get through this for Harry's sake. Harry's Aunt Elaine was the first to greet us when we arrived at the barbecue. She pulled me into a hug that felt a bit too tight, her perfume overwhelming as she whispered, "So nice to finally meet the girl who's brought some happiness back into this family." The way she emphasized happiness made me uneasy, like she was trying to convince herself more than me. The backyard was decorated with string lights and a few folding tables covered in checkered tablecloths. About a dozen people milled around, most of them giving me curious glances when they thought I wasn't looking. Harry kept his hand firmly on the small of my back as he introduced me around, a protective gesture I appreciated. The afternoon sun hit down on the patio, making the air shimmer above the hot grill. The scent of charcoal and cooking meat filled the air, mingling with the sweet fragrance of freshly cut grass and the faint chlorine smell from a neighbor's pool. Condensation dripped down the sides of cold drink cans, leaving wet rings on the wooden tables. I could hear children laughing somewhere down the street, the distant sound of a lawnmower, and the gentle clinking of ice in glasses as people refreshed their drinks. "This is my cousin Bodhi," Harry said, nodding toward a tall man flipping burgers at the grill. "And that's his wife Martha." Bodhi gave me a friendly nod. "Heard a lot about you. Good things," he added quickly, as if he'd been coached on what to say. I spotted Jack across the yard, talking to an older woman. He looked different, sober, put together, his shirt neatly pressed. When he saw me, he hesitated before walking over, maintaining a respectful distance. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice steady. I know it couldn't have been an easy decision. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Harry squeezed my hand. "I've set up a little table over there," his father continued, gesturing to a corner of the yard, away from the alcohol. I'm not drinking today, or any day, moving forward." "That's good," I managed to say. After we finished eating, Harry went to help Bodhi with dessert, leaving me alone at the table. His Aunt Elaine immediately slid into his vacant seat. "So," she said, her voice lowered, "you and Ryan have been together how long?" "About 8 months," I replied, noting her use of his first name. "And I usually call him Harry." She waved her hand dismissively. "He's always been Ryan to us. His mother picked that name." She studied my face intently. "You know, it's remarkable." "What is?" "The resemblance. Has Jack shown you pictures of Rachel yet?" I shook my head. "No, he just mentioned I look like her." Elaine's eyebrows shot up. "Just mentioned? Honey, you could be her twin. It's uncanny. When you walked in today, I thought I was seeing a ghost." My stomach tightened. I didn't realize it was that strong of a resemblance. "Oh yes," she said, leaning closer. "Same hair, same build, even the way you laugh. It's no wonder Jack was so affected when he met you." Her perfume was cloying, a heavy floral scent that seemed to grow stronger as she leaned toward me. I could see every detail of her face, the fine lines around her eyes, the slight smudge of lipstick on her front tooth, the way her pupils dilated as she studied my features. The wooden chair creaked beneath me as I shifted uncomfortably, trying to create some distance between us without being obvious. A bead of sweat trickled down my back, though I couldn't tell if it was from the heat or my growing anxiety. Before I could respond, Jack appeared behind her. "Elaine, stop bothering the poor girl," he said, his tone light but his eyes serious. "Why don't you help Martha with the coffee?" Jack sat down in her place. "I apologize for my sister," he said. "She doesn't always think before she speaks." "It's fine," I lied. "She was just curious." Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving my face. "I wanted to thank you again for coming today. It means a lot to Harry, to both of us." I forced a smile. "He says you're getting help." "Yes, 3 AA meetings already, and I've seen a grief counselor twice. It's bringing up a lot of things I've tried to bury for years." Despite everything, I felt a twinge of sympathy. "That's good. Dealing with it is better than drowning it." He looked surprised, then gave me a genuine smile. "You're wise beyond your years. Rachel was like that too. Insightful." I shifted uncomfortably. "Harry doesn't talk about her much." "No, he wouldn't. He was so young when she died. Most of his memories are probably things I've told him. him. Jack's expression darkened slightly, though not everything. There are some things a son doesn't need to know about his mother. Before I could ask what he meant, Harry returned with a plate of brownies. Jack stood up quickly, patting his son on the shoulder before walking away. Everything okay? Harry asked, setting down the brownies. I think so, I said, watching Jack rejoin his sister. Your aunt says I look exactly like your mom. Harry's face fell. I'm sorry. I should have warned you they might bring that up. So you see it too? The resemblance? He hesitated. I don't really remember her face clearly, just from photos. But yeah, there's definitely a similarity. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to make things weird, he admitted. And honestly, I didn't notice it as much until Dad pointed it out. I picked at a brownie, not really eating it. Your dad said something strange just now, about there being things you don't need to know about your mom. Harry frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know. He walked away before I could ask. The brownie crumbled between my fingers as I nervously picked at it, leaving chocolate smudges on my fingertips. I could taste the sweetness on my tongue, but it felt like eating cardboard. The plastic fork in my other hand bent slightly under my grip. Around us, the family gathering continued. The clink of dishes, bursts of laughter, the scrape of chairs on concrete, but it all seemed distant, as if Harry and I were in our own bubble of tension. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of forced small talk and sidelong glances. I kept catching Jack watching me from across the yard, his expression unreadable. Every time our eyes met, he would quickly look away or strike up a conversation with whoever was nearest. As the sun began to set, people started to leave. Harry was helping Bodhi fold up the tables when Jack approached me again. I was wondering if you might help me with something in the house, he said. I found some old photo albums I thought Harry might like to have. Every instinct told me to decline, to wait for Harry, but refusing would seem rude after he'd been on his best behavior all day. Sure, I said, following him inside. The house was quiet after the noise of the backyard. Jack led me down a hallway to a small study lined with bookshelves. The albums are in here somewhere, he said, scanning the shelves. Rachel was always the organized one. Since she's been gone, things tend to get misplaced. I stood awkwardly in the doorway, not wanting to enter the room fully. Maybe Harry would know where they are? No, I'm sure they're here. Jack pulled out a leather-bound book. Ah, here we go. He sat down in an armchair and patted the seat beside him. Come look. I think you'll find these interesting. Reluctantly, I sat on the edge of the chair, maintaining as much distance as possible. Jack opened the album to reveal photos of a young woman with blonde hair and a bright smile. The resemblance was indeed striking. Not identical, but close enough to be unsettling. This was our wedding day, Jack said, his finger tracing the outline of Rachel's face in the photo. She was 22, so young. I nodded, not knowing what to say. He turned the page to a photo of Rachel holding a baby. Ryan's christening. She picked out his name, you know. I wanted to call him Harry after my father, but she insisted on Ryan. We compromised with Ryan Harry Edwards. He turned more pages, showing me photos of family vacations, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. Rachel appeared in most of them, always smiling, always with her arm around Jack or holding young Harry. She was the center of our world, Jack said softly. When she died, it was like the sun went out. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. It must have been devastating. The leather album felt heavy in my hands, its pages slightly yellowed with age, the musty smell of old photographs mixed with the scent of furniture polish and Jack's aftershave. The study was dimly lit, with just a single lamp casting warm light across the room. Outside the window, the sky had turned a deep purple as twilight settled in. I could hear the distant sounds of Harry and Bodhi talking in the yard, their voices muffled through the closed window. The leather armchair creaked as I shifted my weight, trying to maintain some distance from Jack without being obvious. Jack closed the album suddenly. You know what's strange? In all these years, Harry has never asked me exactly how she died. He knows it was a car accident, but he's never wanted details. My heart rate picked up. Maybe it's too painful for him. Maybe. Jack set the album aside and reached for a box on a nearby shelf. Or maybe he's afraid of what he might learn. He opened the box and pulled out a small stack of papers. These are the police reports from the accident. I've kept them all these years, though I'm not sure why. I stood up abruptly. I should go find Harry. He's probably wondering where I am. Jack didn't seem to hear me. The official report says she lost control of the vehicle, crossed the center line and hit a tree, died instantly. He looked up at me, his eyes unnervingly intense. But that's not the whole story. Mr. Edwards, I really don't think she was leaving me, he said flatly. Packed a suitcase, took Ryan from school early. They found the suitcase in the trunk. I backed toward the door. I should go. She said I was controlling, that I didn't give her enough space. Jack laughed bitterly. Space. After everything I did for her, I gave her everything. My hand found the doorknob behind me. Harry's waiting for me. Jack stood up, the papers clutched in his hand. You're not going to leave me too, are you? Not when we're just getting to know each other. Dad? Harry's voice called from down the hall. Are you guys in there? Relief flooded through me. We're in here, I called back, not taking my eyes off Jack. My heart pounded so loudly I was sure Jack could hear it. The cool metal of the doorknob pressed against my palm, slick with my nervous sweat. The floorboards beneath me creaked as I shifted my weight, ready to bolt if necessary. The air in the room felt thick and oppressive, making it difficult to breathe. I could feel a trickle of cold sweat running down my spine, and my mouth had gone completely dry. The police reports in Jack's hand trembled slightly, the papers making a soft rustling sound in the otherwise silent room. Jack's demeanor changed instantly. He set the papers down and smiled as if our conversation had been perfectly normal. In the study, son. Just showing your girlfriend some old photos. Harry appeared in the doorway, looking between us with concern. Everything okay? Fine, I said quickly. Your dad was just showing me some family albums. Harry's eyes fell on the police reports on the desk. What are those? Jack casually placed the photo album on top of them. Just some old paperwork. Nothing important. He clapped his hands together. Well, I think that's enough reminiscing for one day. You two should probably get going before it gets too late. The drive back to Harry's apartment was quiet. I could tell he wanted to ask what had happened in the study, but something held him back. It wasn't until we were inside that he finally spoke. What did he say to you? You look shaken. I sank onto his couch. He showed me pictures of your mom. We do look alike. Harry sat beside me. And he started talking about her death. Said she was leaving him when she crashed. That there was more to the story than you knew. Harry's face paled. What? He had police reports. He said she packed a suitcase and took you from school early that day. He shook his head. That's not... He always told me she was coming home from the grocery store. I think he was about to tell me more, but then you showed up. Harry ran his hands through his hair. This doesn't make sense. Why would he lie about how she died? I don't know, I said gently, but maybe you should ask him. No, Harry said firmly. I don't want to talk to him about this. Not yet. The couch cushions sagged beneath us, the fabric rough against my bare legs. Harry's apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional car passing on the street below. The ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, circulating the cool air and creating subtle shadows that danced across the walls. I could smell the faint scent of Harry's cologne mixed with the lingering aroma of coffee from that morning. My throat felt tight, and I reached for the half-empty water glass on the coffee table, the cool liquid soothing my parched mouth. That night, I dreamed of Rachel in the Honda Civic, like a virgin, playing from the speakers as she drove frantically down a winding road, tears streaming down her face. A suitcase sat in the passenger seat, and in the rearview mirror, I could see a young boy, Harry, sleeping in the back seat. I woke up gasping. The image of her terrified face burned into my mind. The next morning, Harry was quiet, lost in thought. I knew he was processing what I'd told him about his mother. I think I should go home for a few days, I said over coffee. Give you some time to think. Harry looked up, alarmed. You don't have to do that. I want you here. I know, but this is a lot to process. And honestly, I could use some space too. He nodded reluctantly. Okay, but promise you'll answer if I call? Of course. The morning light streamed through the kitchen window, casting long rectangles of sunshine across the worn linoleum floor. Steam rose from our coffee mugs, creating swirling patterns in the air before dissipating. The refrigerator hummed in the background, occasionally making a clicking sound as the motor cycled. I traced the rim of my mug with my finger, feeling the smooth ceramic and the warmth that radiated from it. Harry's face looked pale and drawn in the harsh morning light, with dark circles under his eyes suggesting he'd barely slept. The clock on the microwave blinked 8:37, reminding me I needed to pack soon if I wanted to catch the bus back to my place. Inside my apartment, I finally felt like I could breathe. As I was drying off after a shower, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I enjoyed our talk yesterday. There's more you should know. Jack. My blood ran cold. How had he gotten my number? I showed the message to my roommate Autumn, who had just gotten home from work. That's creepy, she said, frowning at my phone. How did he even get your number? I have no idea. Harry must have given it to him. Are you going to reply? I stared at the message. Number, I'm going to block this number. But curiosity nagged at me. What more was there to know about Rachel's death? The next day, another text came from a different unknown number. Please don't ignore me. Ryan deserves to know the truth about his mother. Meet me at the cafe on 5th Street tomorrow at 2 p.m. Jack. I blocked that number too, my hands shaking. This was getting out of hand. I called Harry immediately. Your dad is texting me from different numbers. He wants to meet up to talk about your mom. What? I never gave him your number, Harry said, sounding genuinely confused. Block him. I'll call him and tell him to stop. An hour later, Harry called back. He claims he's not texting you, says his phone is right in front of him and he hasn't sent any messages. He's lying, I insisted. I have the texts right here. I believe you, Harry said quickly, but he seemed really confused, almost concerned. A chill ran down my spine. Harry, something's not right. This whole situation feels wrong. I know. Listen, I've been thinking about what you told me, about my mom leaving him. I called my Aunt Elaine to ask if she knew anything about it, and she got really weird. Said I should talk to my dad, that it wasn't her place, but she did say that my mom and dad had been fighting a lot before she died. I paced my living room. Harry, I think you need to find out what really happened that day. I know. I'm going to his house tomorrow to talk to him. Will you come with me? Every instinct told me to say no, but I couldn't let Harry face this alone. Yes, but we meet him in public, not at his house. My apartment felt like a sanctuary and a prison all at once. The familiar surroundings, my collection of throw pillows, the string lights around my bedroom window, the stack of half-read books on my nightstand, offered comfort, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I checked the locks twice before going to bed and kept my phone within arm's reach all night. The texts from Jack, or whoever was pretending to be him, had left me jumpy and paranoid. Every notification sound made me flinch, and I found myself constantly looking over my shoulder when I was outside. The weight of Rachel's story, what I knew and what I still didn't know, pressed down on me like a physical presence. We arranged to meet Jack at a restaurant the following afternoon. I arrived early with Harry, both of us too nervous to eat. When Jack walked in, he looked surprised to see me. I didn't realize you were joining us, he said, sliding into the booth across from us. I asked her to come, Harry said firmly. Dad, I need to know the truth about Mom, about the day she died. Jack's face hardened. What brought this on? You did, I said, when you showed me those police reports and told me she was leaving you. Jack looked genuinely confused. What are you talking about? I never showed you any police reports. Yes, you did. In your study, after the barbecue. We looked at photo albums, Jack said slowly. But I never mentioned police reports or her leaving me. Why would I say that? Harry looked between us, confusion evident on his face. One of you is lying. I'm not lying, I said, my voice rising. You've been texting me too, asking to meet up to talk about Rachel. Jack pulled out his phone. Check my messages. There's nothing to you. You use different numbers, I insisted. I have the texts. I pulled out my phone to show him, but to my horror, the messages were gone. All of them vanished from my blocked messages folder. This isn't possible, I whispered. They were right here. Jack's expression softened with concern. Are you feeling all right? You seem stressed. Don't do that, I snapped. Don't try to make me sound crazy. Harry put his hand on my arm. No one thinks you're crazy, but something strange is happening here. The restaurant buzzed with lunchtime activity around us. The clatter of silverware, the murmur of conversations, servers weaving between tables with trays balanced on their palms. Our booth was in the back corner, partially secluded but still visible to other diners. The vinyl seat squeaked beneath me every time I shifted position. The laminated menu in front of me remained untouched, its plastic surface slightly sticky. A ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, occasionally causing the hanging light fixture to sway slightly. I could smell the greasy aroma of fried food from the kitchen, mixed with the sharp scent of cleaning solution from a recently wiped table nearby. Jack sighed heavily. Harry, the truth is, your mother and I were having problems before she died, but she wasn't leaving me. We were in counseling, trying to work things out. Then why was she driving that day? Where was she going? Harry pressed. She was picking you up from a play date. It was raining. The roads were slick. Jack's voice cracked. It was just a terrible accident. I didn't believe him. Something in his eyes, the way he carefully chose his words, it felt rehearsed. What about the Madonna song? I asked. You said it was playing when she crashed. Jack nodded. Yes, they found the cassette in the player. It was her favorite. And the Honda Civic? Was there a suitcase in it? Jack's eyes narrowed slightly. Why would there be? I felt Harry tense beside me. Because she was leaving you. That's what you told me. I never said that, Jack insisted, his voice hardening. I think you might be confusing our conversation with something else. Jack turned to Harry, his expression concerned. Son, I'm worried about your girlfriend. She seems to be mixing things up. Harry looked torn, glancing between us. Dad, she's not making this up. I didn't say she was making it up, Jack said smoothly. I think she genuinely believes what she's saying, but that doesn't make it true. I felt a surge of panic. He was trying to turn Harry against me, to make me sound unstable, and without those texts as evidence, I had nothing to prove what I was saying. I need some air, I said, sliding out of the booth. Excuse me. The restaurant bathroom was small but mercifully empty. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a harsh glow that made my reflection look sickly in the spotted mirror. The cold water from the faucet shocked my system as I splashed it on my face, careful not to completely ruin my makeup. My hands trembled as I gripped the edges of the sink, trying to ground myself. The paper towel dispenser was empty, so I had to use the loud hand dryer, its hot air making my skin feel tight and uncomfortable. I could hear muffled conversations through the thin walls, reminding me that I couldn't hide in here forever. I hurried to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. This couldn't be happening. I wasn't imagining things. Jack had shown me those reports, had told me Rachel was leaving him. He had sent those texts. When I returned to the table, Harry and Jack were speaking in low, urgent voices. They stopped when they saw me. Everything okay? Harry asked, his eyes full of concern. Fine, I lied, sitting back down. Jack cleared his throat. I was just telling Harry that I think we all need some space to cool down. This is clearly a sensitive topic for everyone. I agree, I said, surprising both of them. But Harry deserves to know the truth about his mother, the whole truth. Jack's jaw tightened, and he will, when the time is right. As we left the restaurant, Jack pulled me aside while Harry went to get the car. I don't know what game you're playing, he said, his voice low and dangerous, but stay out of my family's business. Harry doesn't need to know everything about his mother. What are you hiding? I whispered back. His eyes were cold. Nothing, but you're starting to make me wonder what you're hiding. These delusions, these false accusations, it's concerning. Harry pulled up in the car before I could respond. Jack's demeanor changed instantly, his face softening as he waved goodbye to his son. As we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just glimpsed the real Jack Edwards, and he was far more dangerous than I had initially thought. The parking lot was half empty, with patches of oil staining the asphalt beneath our feet. A hot breeze carried the scent of exhaust fumes and the distant aroma of fast food from across the street. Jack's fingers dug into my arm as he held me back, his grip tight enough to leave marks. His breath smelled of coffee and mint, his face so close to mine that I could see the tiny broken capillaries across his nose and cheeks. A car horn blared somewhere in the distance, making me flinch. The sun reflected blindingly off the windshields of parked cars, forcing me to squint as I tried to maintain eye contact with Jack, refusing to show fear despite the rapid pounding of my heart. I couldn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. My phone buzzed with a new text from an unknown number. Check the attic. That's where he keeps everything. A friend. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. I took a screenshot immediately, determined not to lose this one too. When Harry woke up, I showed him the text. This is getting weird, he said, running a hand through his messy hair. Who would even know about my dad's attic? Someone who knows what he's hiding, I suggested. Maybe your Aunt Elaine? Harry shook his head. She wouldn't go behind Dad's back like this. He stared at the message. We need to check that attic. We drove to Jack's house when we knew he'd be at his AA meeting. Harry still had a key, and the house was eerily quiet as we entered. The attic access is in the hallway ceiling, Harry explained, pulling down a folding ladder. The attic was stifling hot and filled with dust-covered boxes. Harry switched on a bare bulb, casting long shadows across the cramped space. Where do we even start? I whispered. Harry pointed to a corner where several boxes were stacked neatly, unlike the haphazard piles elsewhere. Those look organized, recently accessed. We pulled down the first box. Inside were stacks of papers, bills, insurance documents, and at the bottom, a manila envelope labeled Rachel Accident. Harry's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were the police reports Jack had shown me, along with newspaper clippings about the crash and a death certificate. Single vehicle accident. Harry read aloud, his voice hollow. Driver lost control, crossed the center line, struck a tree. I reached for another document. Wait, look at this. It was a handwritten statement from a witness. This says another vehicle was involved. A black pickup that was following her car closely before the accident. Harry snatched the paper. That's not in the official report. The attic air was thick with dust that danced in the beam of light from the single bulb. Each breath felt labored in the oppressive heat, and sweat trickled down my back, making my t-shirt cling uncomfortably to my skin. The floorboards creaked ominously beneath our weight, and every sound seemed amplified in the enclosed space. The musty smell of old cardboard and forgotten belongings filled my nostrils, along with the faint scent of mothballs. Cobwebs clung to the rafters above us, and I had to duck to avoid hitting my head on the sloped ceiling. My fingers were grimy with dust as I carefully sorted through the papers, the texture of the old documents rough against my skin. We dug deeper, finding more boxes labeled with Rachel's name. One contained her personal items, jewelry, a wallet with her driver's license, and a small diary with a broken lock. Harry hesitated before opening it. This feels wrong. She was your mother, I said gently. If she was in trouble, wouldn't she want you to know? He nodded and began to flip through the pages. His face grew increasingly pale as he read. She was afraid of him, he whispered. Listen to this. Jack followed me to the grocery store again today. Said he was just making sure I was safe, but I saw him watching from the parking lot for an hour. He turned more pages. Found a tape recorder under the bed. He's been listening to my phone calls. My stomach churned. Harry, there's more. His voice cracked. I've made arrangements with Stella. She'll meet me at the bus station with the money. I'm taking Ryan and leaving tomorrow while Jack is at work. I can't live like this anymore. The final entry was dated the day she died. We found another box filled with Madonna memorabilia, posters, vinyl records, and concert tickets. At the bottom was a cassette tape of Like a Virgin, with a crack down the middle. He kept it, I whispered, the tape that was playing when she died. The last box contained photographs, hundreds of them. But these weren't family photos. They were surveillance shots of Rachel, at the grocery store, picking Harry up from school, talking to other women. Many had dates and notes written on the back in Jack's handwriting. Meeting with unknown man, 2:30 p.m., Harry read from one. Second time this week. Who is he? He was obsessed with her, I said, the pieces finally clicking into place. And when she tried to leave, he followed her. Harry finished, his voice hollow. The black pickup. It was him. We heard the front door open downstairs. Shh, Harry whispered. He's back early. We quickly shoved everything back into the boxes, but there was no time to return them to their original positions. We heard footsteps in the hallway below. Ryan? Jack called out. Is that you up there? Harry looked at me, panic in his eyes. We have to confront him. I nodded, my heart racing. Together. We descended the ladder to find Jack standing in the hallway, his expression a mixture of surprise and anger. What are you doing in my attic? Harry held up the diary. Finding out the truth about Mom. Jack's face drained of color. You had no right? No right? Harry's voice rose. She was my mother. You've been lying to me my entire life. I was protecting you, Jack insisted. You were too young to understand. Understand what? I asked. That you stalked her? That you controlled her every move? That you followed her the day she died? Jack's eyes narrowed as they fixed on me. You're behind this, turning my son against me. Don't blame her, Harry said, stepping between us. This is about you and what you did to Mom. Jack's composure cracked. She was going to take you away from me. Her own delusions, thinking I was controlling her. I was protecting her. The world is dangerous, and she was so naive. So you followed her, Harry said, his voice shaking. In your black pickup. Jack's eyes widened slightly. Who told you that? It's in the witness statement, the one that mysteriously didn't make it into the official report. Jack shook his head. I was trying to talk to her, to make her come home. She was driving too fast, not paying attention. You ran her off the road, Harry whispered, the realization dawning on his face. It wasn't an accident at all. No, Jack shouted. I would never hurt her. I loved her. That wasn't love, I said quietly. That was obsession. Jack's eyes locked on mine, and I saw something dangerous flash in them. You don't understand. You're just like her, twisting everything, making me the villain. He took a step toward me, and Harry immediately moved to block him. Don't, Harry warned. Don't you dare touch her. Jack laughed bitterly. So that's it? You're choosing her over your own father? Over family? I'm choosing the truth, Harry said firmly, and we're leaving now. The hallway suddenly felt impossibly narrow, the walls closing in around us. The floorboards beneath our feet groaned with each step, as if the house itself was protesting. I could smell Jack's aftershave, the same scent that had filled my nostrils that night in the guest room, mixed with the stale odor of cigarettes he must have smoked outside the AA meeting. The diary in Harry's hand seemed to pulse with energy. Rachel's words finally freed after years of being hidden away. My mouth felt dry as cotton, and I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. The afternoon light slanted through the hallway window, casting long shadows that seemed to reach for us like grasping fingers. We backed toward the front door, Harry keeping himself between me and his father. Jack followed, his movements jerky and unpredictable. You can't leave, he said, his voice rising. We need to talk about this. As a family. We're not a family, Harry replied. Not anymore. As we reached the door, Jack lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You look just like her, he hissed. But you won't take my son from me too. Harry shoved his father back. Let her go. Jack stumbled but kept his grip on my arm. She's poisoned you against me. Can't you see that? I twisted free, but Jack grabbed for me again. Harry stepped between us and Jack's fist connected with his jaw. Dad, stop, he shouted, but Jack was beyond reason. He lunged at me again, his eyes wild. You're not Rachel. Stop pretending to be her. Harry tackled his father to the ground. They struggled, Jack's rage giving him unnatural strength. I grabbed my phone to call 911, but Jack knocked it from my hand. Nobody's calling anyone, he shouted. This is family business. He shoved Harry off and scrambled to his feet, breathing heavily. You don't understand what it was like losing her, the emptiness. And then you bring home this copy of her. flaunting her in my face. I didn't know, Harry said, his voice cracking. I never saw the resemblance until you pointed it out. Jack's eyes darted between us. I tried to be civil. I apologized for that night. I joined AA. I did everything right. You assaulted me, I reminded him, and then you tried to make me think I was crazy. I never touched you, Jack insisted. You're making that up, just like you made up those texts. Harry shook his head. Stop lying, Dad. I heard her scream that night. I saw you in her bed. Jack's face contorted with rage. She invited me in. She wanted me there. That's not true, I said firmly. You were hammered and you grabbed me. Liar! Jack shouted, lunging for me again. This time Harry was ready. He intercepted his father, shoving him back against the wall. We're leaving, now, and if you ever come near her again, I'll go to the police with everything we found. Jack's face crumpled. You wouldn't. I'm your father. And she was my mother, Harry replied coldly. The mother you've been lying about my whole life. We backed out of the house, Harry keeping himself between me and Jack the entire time. Jack stood in the doorway, watching us with a mixture of rage and despair. This isn't over, he called as we got into Harry's car. She'll turn on you too, Ryan, just like your mother did. The car engine roared to life, drowning out Jack's final words as Harry reversed out of the driveway. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely fasten my seatbelt, the metal clasp clinking repeatedly against the buckle before finally clicking into place. The leather seat was hot against my legs, having baked in the afternoon sun while we were inside. Harry's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, a small trickle of blood running from the corner of his mouth where his father's punch had landed. The air conditioning blasted cold air that raised goosebumps on my arms despite the adrenaline heating my skin. Through the rearview mirror, I could still see Jack standing in the doorway, his figure growing smaller as we sped away, but his presence still looming large in our minds. 3 months later, we were settling into our new apartment in a city 3 hours away. The police investigation into Rachel's death had been reopened based on the evidence we provided. Jack was facing charges of evidence tampering and obstruction of justice, though proving his direct involvement in the crash after all these years would be difficult. Harry had started therapy to process the truth about his mother and his father's betrayal. Some days were harder than others, but he was healing. As for me, I'd cut and dyed my hair, partly as a symbolic fresh start, partly to sever the connection to Rachel's appearance that had triggered so much chaos. Harry had been supportive, assuring me he loved me for who I was, not who I resembled. We were unpacking the last of our boxes when Harry pulled out a small vinyl record. I saved this from my dad's attic, he explained. It was my mom's favorite Madonna album. I smiled, taking it from him. Are you sure you want to keep it, after everything? Yeah, he said softly. I want to reclaim some of her, the real her, not the version my dad created. He hesitated. Would you listen to it with me? I've never actually heard it all the way through. I nodded, setting up the portable record player we'd bought at a thrift store. As Madonna's voice filled our new living room, Harry pulled me into a gentle dance. Thank you, he whispered against my hair. For what? For believing in yourself when everyone else was trying to make you doubt. For helping me find the truth. I rested my head on his shoulder, swaying to the music. We found it together. Our new apartment was small but bright, with large windows that let in streams of afternoon sunlight. The hardwood floors creaked pleasantly beneath our feet as we danced, and the faint smell of fresh paint still lingered in the air. Outside, the sounds of the city provided a constant background hum. Car horns, distant conversations, the occasional siren. The vinyl record crackled slightly as it spun, adding a warm, nostalgic quality to Madonna's voice. My newly dyed hair felt lighter, both physically and symbolically, as Harry's fingers gently brushed through it. The moving boxes stacked against the wall reminded us that this was a new beginning, a fresh chapter we were writing together, far from the shadows of the past. That night, I dreamed of Rachel again, but this time she wasn't in the car. She was standing in a sunny garden, smiling. She didn't speak, but her eyes were peaceful. When I woke up, I felt a sense of closure I couldn't explain. Harry was already awake, making coffee in our tiny kitchen. Good dream? He asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, I said, accepting the mug he offered. I think it was. We sat by the window, watching the sunrise over our new city. There would be hard days ahead, the trial, the ongoing healing, the occasional nightmares, but for the first time since that night in the guest room, I felt safe. We had faced the darkness together and emerged on the other side. Harry reached for my hand across the table. I love you, he said simply. I squeezed his hand. I love you too. Not because I reminded him of someone else, not because I fit into someone else's obsession, but because we had chosen each other through the hardest truth and the darkest lies, and that was a foundation we could build on.